If you look at this graph over here, here's some examples of some Old Testament, some archaic, or you might say ancient secular manuscripts. You see Herodotus. Herodotus is the great historian for the Old Testament, actually, the time of the Old Testament days, and he was writing in the 5th century BC. Herodotus is who we have to go to understand about the Assyrian period and the Babylonians, and also the Persian period. That's where we go to find out about the Old Testament manuscripts. Thucydides, look when he wrote, the 5th century BC. But when do we get any of their material? In order to know where their material comes from, we need to go to 900 AD. We don't get any of their manuscripts until 900 AD. That's the 10th century AD. What we're talking about basically is 1,300 years later before we find the first manuscript for any of these historical writings. Let's look at some other ones. Aristotle, Caesar, Pliny. These are all the ones who are writing in just before the time the New Testament comes out. Well, let's look at Thales and Phlegon, Tacitus. They're writing about the same time period as the New Testament. Josephus, who's writing a little bit later than the New Testament time. What is the earliest manuscript we have for any of these writers? Any of the Greek writers like Socrates, Plato, any of these great philosophers that come from the Greek world, when is the earliest manuscript we have for any of their writings? They don't appear until 850 AD. The earliest we have is Pliny, 850 AD. That's the 9th century. Yet we have good 230 manuscripts for the New Testament alone before the 6th century, and we can trace them all the way back to the 2nd century. We have the entire New Testament by the 4th century. Talk about manuscript evidence. There's no other piece of literature in the world, either secular or the sacred, that can equal the manuscript evidence we have for the New Testament.